let's talk about sales and why people are reluctant about sales. Are they afraid? They feel like a car salesman that they have to push. Like, what are the feelings and behind the sales, and why there's so many people that hate sales? They feel very uncomfortable around sales.
Yeah. Well, in the process of writing my book, I did a bit of research and I tried to see like where were the source, because that was the ultimate question. Like, why do we naturally not like it? We actually naturally seem to hate it, right? And it seems the higher integrity you have, the more you end up selling less because you don't want to associate with that world. So a couple of things I've noticed that are quite interesting. Number one is we all have a story we remember or an experience we personally had of a negative sales experience. And, you know, if you want to be a doctor, you have to go to school, do your residency, and the steps to get in are quite steep. So by the time you become a doctor, you have to almost be guaranteed. Now, of course, there's going to be a few bad doctors, but the majority are going to be good doctors because there was a large filtering process. So a certain type of person makes it, gets certified, practices health. And so now your impressions of most interactions with most doctors is going to be probably a better chance of being a good one. What are the standards, qualifications, and requirements for you to become a salesperson? Well, there is no filter. And quite frankly, a lot of people don't become salespeople by choice. They become salespeople by desperation. They couldn't get any other job, right?
So let's talk about that. That is very important. So my first company, I did the first fintech in Mexico, and I was working with the most like determined people, great educated, all that. And then I moved to the US and opened a mortgage bank. And I was working in real estate with a lot of realtors and people that they usually don't fit in any other big company, and they default to become realtors, right? Because there's no barrier of entry.
It's very low.
It was depressing. It was hard to work with a lot of people with very, very low standards.
Yeah, so because you have that barrier to entry is quite low and still ends up being quite lucrative in most cases, you have a lot of people that will get into it and can actually be moderately successful even if you're not that great at it. And so as such, you have a chance of encounter with a negative salesperson is pretty high because there's so many environments that a sales process is happening. Like sales is happening around us all the time, everywhere, for everything. Like the entire human world was created as a result of sales processes, from the house that we live in, the roads we drive on, the countries we decide to live in, the phones we communicate on, all of it, the food we eat. It's all a sales that either happen with friction or without friction. And here's the thing with Daniel is anytime a sales happen without frictions or without a negative impression goes unnoticed. We'll label it something else. The only well, if a great sales process is executed beautifully, more than likely you're not going to label it as a sales activity. And you know, and that's great because, you know, you'll often hear the people saying like, you know, I don't sell, you know, I just make sure that people know what they're getting and I'll explain to them the features. And then if they want to buy it, they'll buy it. I'm like, what the hell do you think a sales process? So
they think selling is like pushing and
yeah. So the only time we label something as sales is the negative things around sales. So number one, the reason you hear sales and your hair on the back, you will start going up is because the only things we label as sales are the sales events that we've experienced or know people have experienced that are typically negative. So now we automatically don't want to be in the bucket of the Wolf of Wall Street, although entertaining movie, not a role model for the kind of ethics we want to have in our lives.